Heyo, Afrodo Reviews here, coming at you today with something a little unique for this channel. That's not unique. This happens every day now. Every day. Heyo, welcome to Afrodo Reviews. And this is where we decide, is that book worth taking to the light side? Or does it deserve the fiery fields of Mustafar? And may the 4th be with you! At least until Revenge of the 5th. Today I want to do something a little special and unique. I wanted to do a Booktube tag. But not just any Booktube tag. I was going to try my hand at crafting my own Booktube tag. At least I think it's a unique tag. There are so many Booktube tags that when I tried to look up a tag similar to this, I couldn't quite find it. But point is, I crafted my own Booktube because I wanted to mark this month of Star Wars, or well, my month of Star Wars, with something of my own creation. Well, sort of my own creation. But this will be May the 4th be with you tag, or the Star Wars tag, whatever's easier for you guys. The 4th be with you because, I mean, technically, you know, today's the 4th. So if you did it another day, it wouldn't quite be May the 4th. Just call it Star Wars tag. You'll have to bear with me a bit as I do this. I've never made a Booktube tag before, and admittedly my own experience doing the tags in general is a lot lesser than a lot of the other booktubers on this platform. I don't do them as often, but I still wanted to try my hand and make them, share my love of Star Wars with you guys, especially my love of the EU. I know the more common theme for Booktube this month is mayhem instead of Star Wars, but you know, this is my own personal. So I hope you guys enjoy this, at least this video, if you don't necessarily want to do the tag. Now onto the tag itself. The tag is going to be 10 questions. It's gonna be a bit different than you normally see Booktube tags. Instead of just being a single question, it's going to be an either or question. You can answer the first part of the question or the second part. Now the first part of the question is going to be a general question about books or stories in general. Whereas the second part of the question will be a Star Wars specific question. Now, I am going to, for this particular video, alternate between them to show what I mean. However, if you guys want to see a video where I answered the questions I didn't do this video, or when you make this video, you want to answer both part of the question with each question, feel free to do that. I'm not restricting anyone here. I want you guys to have fun with this tag more than anything. I'll include the full list of questions down below, so don't feel obligated to watch the entire video to get the list of questions if this tag sounds like fun to you. But if you do want to watch the video, feel free to stick around. I'm about to start. So, let's get started. Before I get too into this, I want to explain something. I prefer calling it the EU as opposed to the Legends, which it has been renamed as due to Disney. So every time I say EU or Expanded Universe, I mean Legends. I'm sure most of you understand that. I just wanted to be crystal clear on that real quick before I get into this. But yeah. Question 1. The Phantom Menace. Name a book that you hate or love, but everyone else seems to have the opposite opinion. Or, who is your favorite EU character and why? Now to start with, I'm going to go with a Star Wars specific question. That's because I love Star Wars, and this tag was made for Star Wars. So, we'll start with that. And my favorite EU character, without a doubt, is Mara Jade Skywalker. Now, I know I've already said that I haven't read Heir to the Empire, and by the time I posted this video, and while I'm recording it, I probably won't have started it, but I have encountered Mara Jade Skywalker in a lot of the other Expanded Universe works that I have read in the past. Like I said, I did read the Allegiance prequel novel to Heir to the Empire. I've also read several of the books she was in after Heir to the Empire took place. Specifically more in the Jedi Academy series. Although it has been a bit. But I've also read the Sacrifice novel and what happens in there. As well as seeing her coming... I don't want to spoil, so I'm not gonna say. But as well as the books afterwards where she has a presence, is what I'll say. But yeah, she is a great character. I'm really glad that Zahn introduced her. I'm excited to see how she is when she was very first introduced on a meta level. But apart from that, I want to go so into why I like her, but a lot of it will involve spoilers for people who haven't read the EU. Just know that when it comes to Jedi, she is one of my favorite Jedis. In fact, actually, I guess that's a common opinion, because if you have any familiarity with the EU, you know that she is well liked even among the people who aren't deep in the lore, like me or other people who have read every EU book ever published. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Mara Jade Skywalker is my favorite EU character. Question number 2. The Attack of the Clones. What was a book you read that was suspiciously similar to another story you've read before? Or, what is your favorite Star Wars conspiracy theory or headcanon? Since I answered the first question for the Star Wars specific, I'll go into the more general book question. Although it's very tempting to use Aragon for the answer on this question, due to its similarities to A New Hope, and what I commented on while doing my review of it in the past, I think the book that I'm going to use for this specific instance is Lord of the Dead by Tom Holland, and pointing out how suspiciously similar it is to Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, specifically Interview with a Vampire. Aragon did have the same story as, A New Hope, but I do feel that with its high fantasy setting, it was just enough that it was different, and not to mention The New Hope had what is now very archetypal type of storytelling. A young hero gets a call to action, which leads him to become a hero in a rundown group of people who need his help. So it's hard to fault Aragon for that. However, when it comes to Lord of the Dead, everything about it just feels like Tom Holland was attempting to suck off the success of Interview with a Vampire. To the point where, as I mentioned in my review of the book, I didn't understand why it had to be in an interview style. The book isn't really told like that, and it would have just worked if it started telling the story from the beginning instead of including that whole first section and the framing device. So in a sense, Lord of the Dead just feels like way more of a ripoff than Aragon did. And that's my answer. Question number 3. Revenge of the Sith. Name a sequel or plot twist within a book that made the rest of the story seem much better. Or, name your favorite Sith Lord and tell me why. Again, since I'm alternating, I'll answer the Sith Lord question. My favorite Sith Lord was actually Darth Sion. And I admit this is more of a nostalgic take. This was back when I was first getting into the deep lore, and when I looked into Darth Sion, I just thought it was super metal at the time that he was a Sith Lord who was literally killed in battle, only to decide, no, you know what? I'm too angry to die. Pulls himself back together with the dark side of the Force and keeps moving. And, okay, nowadays I would argue that there are more well-written Sith Lord. There are Sith Lords who are more powerful. But Darth Sion holds a special place in my heart as my favorite, simply because he introduced me to the concept of deep lore and how crazy things can get in the EU when it comes to that. So yeah, that's my answer. My favorite Sith Lord is Darth Sion. Question number 4. Name a book that you've read that made you rethink a genre you dislike. Or, what was the first Star Wars EU book that you've read? To answer the book question, the book that I've read that made me rethink a genre that I really did not like is, and I know you guys are probably sick of hearing it, Hit Me With Your Best Scott by SUZANNE ENOCH. Before this book, my opinions of Harlequin romance were, it's basically trashy dime store novels that really don't care about a plot and are just there for fantasy wish fulfillment. Which is fine. People enjoy that. Wish fulfillment isn't a bad thing to write. However, in terms of, I didn't really think there was a story in any of them that was worth reading, for more or less. It was purely for the wish fulfillment. So, if you want wish fulfillments, if you weren't going into it for the wish fulfillment, it was probably schlocky garbage to most people. That being said, Hit Me With Your Best Scott surprised me by having a genuinely interesting story, and I might actually give some other Harlequin romance novels a chance because of it. Specifically, the books that came before it, because like I said, apparently looking it up, Hit Me With Your Best Scott is book 3 of a trilogy, and is considered the weakest of the trilogy. And if I liked Hit Me With Your Best Scott, that's gotta render the others at least good, right? So yeah, that's my pick for that question. Question number 5. The Empire Strikes Back. Name a sequel that was much darker than the previous book. Or, if you could return any EU character to canon, who would it be? The question I'll answer is the Star Wars specific question. And although a lot of you might expect me to say Mara Jade as the character I would return to canon, I don't think she would work anymore. The Disney trilogy has kind of ruined a lot of what could have made Mara Jade work. In addition to the fact that I really liked her relationship with Luke Skywalker. So, with everything they've done in the Disney trilogy, I simply don't think Mara Jade could work in a way that wouldn't require super heavy retcons. And at that point, would it even be Mara Jade anymore? However, that being said, the character that I would return to canon that I think could still work, even if it might take some retcons to his original character, is Kyle Katarn. A character first introduced in the Dark Forces video game. I know Kyle Katarn mostly from the Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and the Jedi Knight Outcast games. These were the big games that were around when I was a kid. I actually played the Jedi Knight Academy a lot in Walmart, Resistance, where I had to snap my neck up to play it. So I really had an appreciation for it. And Kyle Katarn was one of those characters that I enjoyed a lot because I found he was well written. A while back, I looked into his past and I thought that's a very interesting story. Now, while a lot of his story is tied into how Luke was supposed to rebuild the Jedi Order and how he was one of Luke's most trusted companions, and he worked with Luke because he was one of those people who wasn't afraid to speak his mind and helped keep Luke on the straight, I do think he could still work in the current canon. He didn't discover his Force abilities until he was well into adulthood, and I think there's ways you could squeeze him in and still make him work as a character that he was well written, he had a decent motivation. It's just, again, can't go too deep into it without spoiling, because I do want you guys to go experience the EU, but that is it. Question number 6. The Return of the Jedi. Which story had the most satisfying character arc to you? Or, which Jedi from Star Wars was your favorite? Now, the character I felt had the most satisfying character arc for me is, and I know this might catch some people off guard, but I personally would argue that Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z was one of those characters who had one of the most satisfying character arcs for me. And despite what a lot of people would say, despite how common this character probably is, he's like right up there with Zuko as examples of how to turn a villain to a hero. Vegeta worked really well for me most recently. That's when I really felt his character arc had come full circle. You see, Vegeta starts off as a horrible villain, much worse than Zuko even. And as he literally tries to blow up our planet, kills someone who was close to him for years for being crippled, and his friend killed several of our heroes upon their first entrance. However, that being said, as time went on, Vegeta joined our heroes, first out of a sense of self-preservation, and then later on, you can see his walls crumbling. Now, for the longest time, I didn't really like Vegeta that much. I didn't like him in the Saiyan saga. He felt more like an enemy mine situation. I didn't really like him in the following Cell games because he made the worst mistake in that section. Yes, worse than Krillin's, Goku's, and Gohan's mistake. Because all of them, I can at least argue that there was a deeper reason behind it than petty ego. But it was really in the Buu saga that I started to like Vegeta a lot more. And I'm sure that opinion is not completely uncommon. The Buu saga really showed how much Vegeta was changing from the villain he used to be. From a guy who literally didn't care about whether or not his future wife and son was going to die, to someone who accidentally hurts his son during training and immediately feels guilty about it. And that's what makes it so much more tragic when he finally falls to Babidi. I think that's how you're supposed to say his name. It's been a while since I've watched the Buu Saga, so I'm not sure if that's how you say his name, so I apologize. And Babidi, and goes back to his full villainous mode. But he definitely redeemed himself later on during his most iconic scene.
For the first time, Vegeta is fighting for someone other than himself. Controlling his own fate.
But that being said, I personally think Vegeta has come perfect circle in the latest Dragon Ball Super arc. Now, I know Dragon Ball Super is contentious, but one of the things I loved was Vegeta's attitude during the Moro Saga arc when he was defending the Namekians. When he's defending the Namekians, and you can see firsthand how much his former actions as a genocidal tyrant has brought down immense guilt from him to the person he used to be. And honestly, I could do full essays, full character essays on why this works, who Vegeta is as a person, and all that. So I can't really get into it now, but for now, my answer will be Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Question 7. The Force Awakens. What book did you read that had an amazing start, only to disappoint right afterwards? Or, what character from Star Wars started with great amount of promise, but ultimately fell flat? But to avoid the obvious, with this Star Wars specific question, and saying Luke Skywalker, the character I'm actually going to say is Captain Phasma from the Disney trilogy. I have never seen such a blatant attempt to create try to recreate the Boba Fett runaway popularity. Captain Phasma was clearly that character, and it was just so much wasted potential. A cool armor, an amazing actress, and just all this build up in the trailers. And what does she amount to? She gets taken prisoner, thrown in the trash compactor, and then basically just killed off in the second movie before she's even really done anything awesome. And that's mostly because of her own grandstanding during those moments. And while the alternate take of the scene she was in is better, if you guys haven't seen it, look it up. I still think that Captain Phasma was one of the biggest waste of opportunity, biggest waste of character in the entire Disney trilogy. Because at least General Hux got to be an intimidating villain. At least Kylo Ren got to be an angry Sith. At least every character had a moment where they looked like they were fulfilling up to a better character. Which sequel ruined a character or plot point from the previous work? Or, who is your favorite Order 66 survivor? So, I'm going to break my own rule here and just answer the Star Wars question. It's Ahsoka Tano. And, okay, so I just wanted to answer that because there's a lot of Jedi I do like that survive the Order 66 in EU and even in main canon now. Ram Koda was an interesting one. I like the fact that he survived Order 66 simply because he was the only Jedi that was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust that clone army that was created by a Sith. That seems a little suspicious, don't you guys think? And I guess technically, if you could count Starkiller, since his dad survived the Order, but I don't know if how true that is. And believe me, Grogu is definitely high on that list because he's just so cute. But in terms of pure character and who I think I love the most in terms of who survived Order 66 is Ahsoka Tano. And I don't think I need to expand anymore. Anyone currently up to date with Star Wars knows exactly why she's such a great character. Also, baby Ahsoka is adorable. I just watched Tales of the Jedi a few days ago after I record this, and baby Ahsoka is adorable. Chapter number 9, The Rise of Skywalker. What stories did you read that had a horribly unsatisfying conclusion? Or, what is the worst Star Wars media you've ever experienced? Holiday special not included. Now, to answer the general question, I would say Mockingjay of the Hunger Games trilogy was probably the most unsatisfying conclusion out of all of them. Simply because the way it ended made everything that Katniss went through seem pointless in the end. Yes, while the Capitol was brought down, it sort of felt like at a certain point, Suzanne Collins didn't really know what to do, so she just started killing characters to fill pages. Characters that were fan favorites died unceremoniously. Characters that were far more important to the story at large died for no reason. I would say that characters like Snow and Coin, their deaths were very good. They were very ironic, and they fit the story that was being told. However, I just felt the ending for Katniss was just so unsatisfying and bleak that it made all the trouble that she went through in the previous two books almost feel pointless. And that's ultimately my issue with it. It was just such a downer ending. Question 10. Rogue One. What book did you read that gave you greater appreciation for minor plot points in other works? Or, who is your favorite non-Force user in Star Wars? Now, to answer this one, although I really do kind of want to answer the general one, my favorite non-Force user in Star Wars is actually Fives from the animated Clone Wars series. What the animated Clone Wars series did with the clones is... I loved it so much. Because one of my biggest issues with the clones, even in the EU, and I know what a lot of people had who've just watched the movies, is the clones just kind of felt like organic droids. And while people might argue, people might say it was better that they weren't, people might argue that some of the twists within the animated Clone Wars takes away the agency of the clones and really deteriorates the idea that they are a military force who places the Republic above all else. I personally think that the clones with personality, the clones who they are in the animated Clone Wars, was just so much more satisfying than most of the clone perspectives that we get in the Star Wars EU. I would even go on the limb to say that the Republic Commando series is the only one that comes slightly close to that. But I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, people who love Star Wars EU specifically, but I personally find it amazing. But Fives is one of those ones that was really up there. See, Fives to me was a great character because unlike Rex, who started as a commander, so you kind of already knew he was a badass, you watch as Fives goes from a literal newbie to an ARC trooper who almost exposes the Order 66 plot and saves Jedi. And of course, obviously, due to the foregone conclusion, you know he's not going to succeed when he discovers it. But it was very interesting, and it made me really like his character that he got close. He probably got closer than anyone else I can think of at the moment to stopping Palpatine's plans before it began. And that was I just loved it. Question 11. Tag some fellow booktubers. What is a booktube tag if I don't include a thing where you tag other people? I mean, is that why they call it a booktube tag? Admittedly, of the group that I know, I'm not sure how many are Star Wars buffs, so I'm going to just tag people I feel like I think would have fun doing this. I know some of them probably don't do tags all that often. I don't know if they love Star Wars or I'm just tagging them for the sake of it. If I do tag you and this doesn't really appeal to you, don't feel obligated in any way to do it. Or if you aren't tagged, feel free to still do it. And, make sure to tag me in your description so I know that, so I can see your video and see how it goes. But to get on, to stop stalling in my own nervousness, the people I'm going to tag directly in the video are T.A. Summers, a wonderful booktuber that I've known since she started on the platform, actually. Actually, I think we both started about the same time. So she's a wonderful booktuber. I'll tag her, see if she has an interest in this. I'll also tag Pat's Mythos. He's a great guy. I loved his Led Zeppelin tag, personally. He didn't make it, but I loved his video on the Led Zeppelin tag, to be clear. But he seems like the kind of guy who would enjoy this. He's a smaller booktuber who has way too little subs for the content he puts out, so even if he doesn't do this tag, I recommend anyone on this channel go check him out. I'll also tag Hobbit Hole Books. I don't know if Star Wars is really his thing, or if he's even does booktube tags all that often. Would feel out of character if a booktuber called Afrodo didn't tag Hobbit Hole Books. So, I'll put that out there. But he also makes pretty decent content as well, so check him out. And to cut this short, since I'm fairly sure this video is going on a bit too long, I'll just tag the rest in the description below. Everyone I tag, I'll put a a link to their channel below, so please check it out below. I'm pretty sure there's a great number of YouTubers down there that a lot of you will enjoy. But with that being said, to avoid stretching this video out too long, and, you know, again, if you want tagged, still feel free to do this. And, you know, you aren't obligated to answer both. You aren't obligated to answer one, do an alternating thing like I did. Answer the question you feel like most answering for those. That's why I included, you know, the double tag. I knew not everyone would be Star Wars buffs like me, so I included a general book tag along with the Star Wars tag. I also want to thank Ukari Plays for helping me flesh out the tag. She's a good friend. She has a considerable interest in Star Wars as well, so she helped me, you know, hammer out some of the questions I wanted to ask when I stalled a bit. I needed to get this out by May 4th, so yeah, couldn't have been stalling too much. But yeah, with that being said, if you do this tag, make sure to tag me in the video. I want to see this. I want to see your answers. I think it would be great, whether it's the general book tag or the Star Wars tag. So, with that being said, just remember, this is Afrodo Views here. And every book is worth an adventure. Even the bad ones. See you later.